call our meeting to order and ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a reminder, save yourself some embarrassment. I just checked my phone. You might want to silence yours. Move on to our routine business and look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to our regular business, just to make sure that if you are going to speak today, we do have a sign-in. We just like to, for the record, make sure that everybody's name and address is available. And our first item on our regular business is consider a recommendation to submit a letter of concern to the Public Utilities Commission regarding Heartland Greenway Navigator Pipeline, similar to the other pipeline letter that we sent out several months ago. Tyler.
Good morning, Tyler Flatt, Commission Office. Commissioner Karski is right, it's practically identical. The letter for your consideration today outlines the similar concerns that were mentioned as the Commission considered what to do regarding the Summit Carbon Pipeline. For your consideration again is to determine whether this is something you'd like to send to the PUC to be put on their official record.
All righty. Comments from the commission, questions? Okay, we will take public input on this. Is anybody here that would like to speak to this item? Good morning.
Morning. Gary Meyer, Minnehaha County. I fully agree with the letter. I think you should do it, but I have a concern. I talked to Chris Nelson a year ago today when this came up, and unfortunately, your letter doesn't do much good. They read it and they put it in a file. Unless you take action, the PUC does not consider the county taking any kind of steps. It does not have an opinion. Your letter is good, but he said it basically goes in a file along with all the other complaints, and that's as far as it goes. So I agree, send the letter, but you really need to take some action to send a message to the PUC.
Thank you, sir. Gary introduce himself? Okay, make sure. Make sure we don't miss anything for the record. Thank you, Gary. All right, any other comments? Commission comments, motions.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
I think as Tyler said, this is the same letter. I think maybe some circumstances have changed since we wrote this letter. I think I'd probably like the opportunity to maybe work with commission staff and maybe reword some things. I guess I'm also mainly interested in this from a emergency response. I see that we have like the lack of emergency response training being provided to local authorities. I think we've had some progress on that we might want to take into account. And anyway, I guess I'm just not quite at the point where this is ripe to be sent. Maybe I'd ask a question of Tyler or any staff. Do we have a sense on any deadline to get any comment to the PUC?
There is no deadline necessarily as far as submitting comments like this. The PUC has set a final hearing date or a decision date rather, for Navigator. Their final order will be submitted by September 27th of this year. So you have roughly 7 months before that final decision's made.
Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I guess I wasn't asking for months, probably just a few weeks. I had a few pending questions among staff on this matter too. So if we weren't feeling it necessary to take action on this and send this today, I would be of the mind to get a little bit more time, but happy to take some input from my colleagues here too.
Commissioner Benega?
Well, I can wait, that's for sure. I don't think that we're gonna see any activity from the PUC until September. And we don't wanna start our clock significantly ahead of time because frankly, we weren't acknowledged in the last conversations that we've had, and having personal appearances and all those kinds of things need to happen. We don't know for sure if the PUC is going to approve the permits or not. I think that we have some ordinances and some other pieces, as commissioners just mentioned. I think the biggest problem that we all have is security and location of where those final processes are going to be. I think those have changed multiple times. We don't know exactly where the final route is going to happen at, so we'll deal with that. And I think that waiting a few weeks isn't going to make a big difference right now.
Commissioner?
I would agree. I think I'm not in any hurry to send it, and I would be in favor of taking time to make sure that we've included every detail that we feel is significant.
So Commissioner Kipley, I'm hearing that you want to wordsmith this a little bit and kind of refine it, maybe bring it back for our consideration. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd move to defer this item. I don't know if we have to have a date certain to reconsider.
I think we
We
should.
should?
I
Okay.
think we should.
Yeah, I think a month is sufficient. So do we have the last meeting in March?
15th, March 21st.
March
would be-
21st?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would move to defer this item to March 21st.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All righty, moving on. Presentation for Minnehaha County Emergency Management and Rural Fire and Ambulance Services. Good morning, Jason. Heard that we might have a chance of snow. You involved in that in any way?
I was going to get to that at the end, but we can certainly start out with that. but
I don't
you're
want
gonna
to
have some
interrupt you.
You're going to have some decisions to make probably Wednesday and Thursday reference this storm. It's supposed to get pretty nasty about that time, so.
Okay.
Jason Gierman, Minnehaha County Emergency Management, here today to give you a quick presentation on what's kind of going on with emergency management right now. Come on. Trish, a little help? No, I can scroll it. Sorry about that. Here's the definition of emergency management. I'm not going to read that. Basically, some of the things we do isn't really in that definition. A lot of it's outside of that, but a lot of liaison work between fire, sheriff's office, police department, and ambulance. We also oversee volunteer programs, police reserve, rescue, and the dive team. Police reserves, currently there's about 40 of them. That's way down from where we've been about 4 or 5 years ago. Last year we did not hold a class because of, we only had about 4 people that qualified. I think 10 or 15 applied through the vetting process. We ended up with about 4, so we canceled the class. It just wasn't efficient enough at that time to make it. This year we have 10. We haven't lost anybody yet, so hopefully that class will graduate in a couple months here yet. So all volunteers, they have to work a minimum of 8 hours a month, and they do donate a lot of hours, as you see, around 9,000 hours a year. The rescue squad, it kind of goes up and down. We're about 15 right now. This is one of the places that they really help rural fire with taking, you see that truck there on the bottom right. That's the Cascade system. They help rural fire go out and fill their air tanks during structure fires. They also do water rescue. They're really involved with the emergency medical. Most of them are EMTs, and they do a lot of assistance with traffic accidents out on the interstate or as needed. And then, we have had them out helping with severe weather response. They were out during the summer derecho, and they've also been out to assist with the last winter storms. And again, with what's coming up here, they'll be available for that too. They've also been helping me with snow removal. They come in and run our plow truck and plow my lot, which is pretty nice. Dive team. It's been a slow year for the dive team, but that's a good thing. We have had no call-outs, which that means no drownings, anything like that. It's been a good year. You know, they like to go out and train. They do a lot of training. They just got back from Okoboji with a ice dive. They went down and trained with their dive team, see what kind of equipment they have. And it's a giant network with Lake County. There's one out of Yankton, and again, the one in Okoboji. One of the interesting things we've been doing is working closely with the Sioux Falls Fire. They are starting a dive team, so we're kind of integrating with them. And the gist of it is, what we like to see is Sioux Falls Fire can make an immediate response, as they will have their equipment with them. And then we can backfill with, as we have larger numbers of people, to if it becomes a long-term type situation. With all these housing developments that have been going up in Sioux Falls with the ponds, digging the ponds, they're all over right now. Luckily, we haven't had any emergencies, but we're kind of seeing the future that there's a possibility of that. Here's some other things that the office does. Again, it's been a slow year for disasters other than the derechos. You know, we haven't had the flooding. There is a higher chance of flooding this year, but the outlook is still good. It just depends on what happens this spring. Hopefully we don't get several days of 75-degree weather and the melt all comes at once. Any questions for me?
Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Thanks for being here, Jason. This is an area of interest of mine, and I appreciate what you do and all throughout the county. Again, a lot of volunteer civic engagement that goes into all this. One line of questioning I'd have, which actually harkens back to our last agenda item. I think you were in here just thinking about the CO2 pipelines and their potential, just in broad terms. We don't have to go too deep, but just at a high level, what concerns do those raise for you just as a novel issue for the county, and what training have you and the teams around you been exposed to so far? What have you kind of learned just generally?
So in my meetings with the pipeline, I think it's more of a check the box thing for them right now, where they come out and meet with me. We did have they gave a presentation here a couple weeks ago at the Alliance about pipeline safety. A lot of fire departments were there. We're from Iowa, South Dakota. You know, they haven't had any hands-on training. It's my understanding that what I've been told is that once it gets closer to dig time, to where they're putting in the pipeline, then they're going to go start more robust training. They have offered equipment. You know, we'll see how that turns out. But you know, the safety issues, obviously they are, because if a CO2 pipeline ruptures, if there's somebody there like with a piece of equipment, it's probably going to be a recovery. And you can go online and see some of the CO2 pipeline ruptures that they've tested, and you know, it just takes away the oxygen in that area. Depending on the weather conditions, it can dissipate really fast or it can linger. So there's all kinds of variables that we look at on that. But there is a safety issue.
Mr. Chair, one follow-up there. When can you go into a little bit more detail on the equipment, and maybe just give an overview when it comes to emergency management, just our state of readiness generally, CO2 maybe being one potential type of response, but I see some folks in the audience, especially from volunteer fire. What type of equipment level of readiness are we at now, and what type of equipment are we talking about here that needs upgrading?
Well, that would be more for the fire to answer specifically, but I can, you know, just give you some of the stuff that they've offered is air monitoring equipment, breathing apparatus. You know, maybe they even mentioned an additional cascade system, maybe more of a portable one on a trailer. I'm gonna explore that a little bit too, but again, we're a ways off on that yet, but I'm sure rural fire can fill you in on more details on what their needs are.
Commissioner Blindberg?
Thank you. Just curious about the decreased number of volunteers that you're seeing, you said with the police reserves. And I know I've heard that volunteer firemen are also, like, volunteers are just dwindling, the numbers are dwindling. Can you tell me more about what you think maybe is the cause of that, and also any solutions, any ideas, or anything we're doing currently to recruit more volunteers?
Well, it has been a problem, not just this year, but probably the last 7 to 10 years. The volunteerism has kind of dropped off, and people just aren't interested in it anymore. You know, one of the things, the dive team, for example, I have a waiting list to get on that. People love to dive, and if they're passionate about it, that's what they love to do, and it's a pretty good following that we have there. Police reserves, we've lost a lot of police reserves actually being hired by other agencies, which we don't see a lot, and we haven't seen a lot in the past, which is a good thing. I mean, it did cost money to train them up, but, you know, luckily we keep them in the area, and they get hired with the sheriff's office or police department. As far as one particular or two particular things, I really can't pin down why that volunteerism is down, but it's a pattern with fire, ambulance, all over right now.
Thank you. I was just curious too if there's any plans or any strategies that we have in place to increase awareness or
We utilize the
highlight that
media
need.
at least once or twice a year for the police reserves. When we're taking those applications, well, maybe a couple weeks ahead of time, Doug Blomper will go down at the 10:30 briefing and kind of get the word out that we're looking. If you see that sign up there, there was recently a car show out at the arena, and we put our tracked vehicle out there, and I did get some interest from that, just advertising that way. The fair, you know, we have those signs out and keep visible during that and see a lot of people. You get a lot of interest after that, but, you know, some people do it for a month and then they decide it's not for them and they leave. Others have been there for 20-plus years. So.
My questions are on the same line as Commissioner Blindberg. I look at your pictures and, you know, you got all the neatest fun equipment that you can go out and train on and work with, and, you know, you have 40 volunteers. I mean, that's probably lifelong friendships that are formed there, you know, just the recruiting strategy and techniques that you use. So I was just curious about that too. So
Word of mouth goes a long ways too, where if people are really interested, they might get their friends involved,
yeah.
relatives, things like that. So.
Okay. Okay, anybody from the public want to comment on this presentation? All right, this is no action on this, but a presentation. Any comment on the weather?
Well, on a follow-up, I'm going to have ambulance and fire kind of
Okay.
come up and give their own little spiel.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Okay. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to overlook you guys.
Morning, Commissioners. Mike Harstead, President of the Minnehaha County Fire Chiefs Association.
And a proud jackrabbit.
And a jackrabbit, go Jacks. Yes. Got a few members of some of our local departments here this morning. Baltic and Humboldt, Del Rapids, Baltic, Garrettson. So just want to give you a little brief update on how things are going in the county with fire. I just first want to start with, we've got a couple of new faces on the commission. It's nice to see. Just give you a little background on the Chiefs Association. Not only am I a volunteer in Crooks, I've been the fire chief in Crooks for 22 years, but I also work up at Rosenbauer. We build fire trucks all over the world, and it's a unique opportunity for me to get to see and visit with firemen literally across the world. And something that we have here in Minnehaha County is unique and special. Our Chiefs Association, we get together every month. We work together on virtually everything that's going on in our county fire-wise. And that's unique. It's the fire service in itself is very territorial. And the mutual aid system that we have in place in our county is unique. There's nothing else like it in the state of South Dakota, and there's very few collaborations like that available across our country. We've done that because, as most of you are well aware, our county is a series of bedroom communities all feeding Sioux Falls. And so volunteerism and the opportunity to have people present during the day, all hours of the night, is at sometimes very critical. And, so if there's a call at 9 o'clock in the morning in Crooks, there aren't going to be too many of my members around to respond to that. There'll be 7 of us up at Rosenbauer, 7 miles away, that will respond. But if you have a fire in the middle of the day in Crooks, you're also going to get paged from Renner and from Hartford and from Lyons and most likely a station or 2 in Sioux Falls as well, so that we can make sure that the appropriate amount of help is on the way. And you're not going to see that in most other places around. So it's very unique. 2022, one of the main functions of the Chiefs Association is to train and prepare our membership for new firefighters, for new fire officers, and so forth. In the last 3 to 4 years, we have seen more turnover at the leadership level of our departments than I've ever seen in my 22 years. So not only do we keep doing new firefighter training, in 2022 we trained 22 new firemen across the county, but we also do every once in a while when we see need, we do a fire officer training class, and this is to those new leaders, helping prepare them to take over and to assume those leadership roles within the departments. So this last year we did hold a fire officer class, and we put 8 new people through that, which is just, it's a way to ensure the machine rolls on, so to speak. Something else that we did new this year that has not been, I've been going to Chiefs meetings for a little over 20 years now, and all that we've done in that time with our membership is subtracted people, as the fire departments in Sherman and Wayne Township have gone away. This year we added, we expanded our membership. We added Del Rapids, Garrettson, and Humboldt volunteer ambulances to our Chiefs Association, so they're incorporated into our meetings. We work with those folks every single day, all the time, so we wanted to give them a seat at the table with us to just more cohesion within what we're doing. So we added some people this year. A huge project that we got accomplished last year. We have radios. My wife gives me crap because I come home from every Chiefs Association meeting, and she says, "Did you talk about radios?" Yeah, we talked about radios. We're changing over the radio system to a P25 compliant. And it required a massive amount of work to change over radios, to upgrade our radios. We did a lot of that work on our own, but you guys got us across the finish line last summer. We used some of that ARPA funding. We purchased about $800,000 in physical radios, which we've exhausted our grant opportunities and everything else. So we really appreciate the help getting across the finish line. To talk about some of the struggles that we've had. That business was handled in July. We still don't have about half of those radios. The day that we got approved for them, we ordered them. And it's the supply chain issues that it's affecting everything in the world, and radios and communication equipment are no stranger to that. We've gotten about half of the stuff in. We're working with Sioux Falls Two-Way to get the rest of it going and so forth. We have no doubt that the critical deadline for that is probably October, November this year, and we will have our stuff in place by then. Call volume. Like I said, I've been doing this an awful long time. When I started in Crooks in the late 90s, we responded to 40 calls that year. Last year we responded to 140. Jason talked about the volunteerism. We haven't seen a critical drop in membership across the county, but we're teetering on a point there, because not only is volunteerism across the nation is down, but the call volume that we're seeing in the county is just expanding exponentially every year. I'll give you 3 great examples. Last year, Hartford with a population of 2,600 people, Hartford Fire Department responded to 463 calls for service last year. It's a call and a half a day. Brandon, with 10,000 people over there. Brandon, they work with MedStar as far as some of their medical response, so they don't go to a lot of the same calls that some of our departments do. They still responded to 564 calls. As a county, we responded to nearly 2,600 calls for the volunteer fire departments. That's 7.5 per day. And we have over 300 volunteers, but it's taxing. And what I'm seeing from the larger call volumes, the Del Rapids, the Hartford, the Brandons, and even some of the other ones, firemen are getting burned out. We're asking an awful lot out of volunteer resources to take care of our emergency needs. And it's something that it may not be a front burner issue today. I think in the next 5 to 7 years, that's going to turn into a little bit more of a critical need. So it's out there and it's coming, but so far we're doing a pretty good job managing it. We do several things volunteer incentive wise. We've received a few grants from FEMA for volunteer staffing and recruitment initiatives. Hopefully you've seen some of our volunteer firefighter commercials in the past. We do quite a few things to try and keep things relevant and so forth. So, you know, when we talk about the challenges that we see coming in the future, you know, the population in Sioux Falls continues to grow a lot. I saw a post, you know, the mayor was out putting the new population sign up, and I think Sioux Falls is over 200,000 now. And not only is that city growing, but the urban sprawl of it, the rest of the metro area is growing as well. You know, communities like Brandon, Crooks, Del Rapids, Hartford are growing rapidly, and that our call volume is never going to go down. It never does. There's always a 5 to 7% increase. You can see that year over just about everything for the last 10 to 15 years. So we're working really hard to be out in front of that, to prepare, to be ready to train these guys that come in, to train new leadership that's there. It's an ever-present problem. The other thing that we see this last year has really affected us is the inflation, the cost of the equipment that we have. Jason's slide had a couple of great pictures of some of the stuff that EM has. I'll tell you firsthand, if you go across this state, the departments in Minnehaha County have the best stuff there is. And the reason for that is we have the population center and we have the capability to do that. Our departments work together a lot on our purchases as far as streamlining things, breathing apparatus and air monitors and things like that. We do as much as we can as far as group purchasing and things like that to simplify things, but the costs are blowing up. You know, the radios, for example, the radios that we ordered in July, they're $1,200 more expensive today if I had to go buy some. And, you know, we got that big purchase done. Well, now that onus falls on the local departments to maintain and keep up with that equipment. So the call volume, everything else keeps increasing, and it seems like our resources continue to flatline and don't keep up with that need. But it is what it is, and so far we're doing pretty good. So I guess that's kind of the state of fire in the county for now. Take any questions or comments you have.
Questions for the chief? Big comment, just thank you. I mean, thank you to everybody, your fellow chiefs and, you know, everybody that's answering those calls. I mean, every time they answer a call, it's a huge commitment. You never know what you're going to, so appreciate the work that's being done.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Are we done, Jason? Ambulance. Okay.
My name's Ryan Sittig. I'm the director of the ambulance service in Del Rapids. And we're just going to each take a quick 30 seconds maybe here and then let Tim wrap up. But I would echo a lot of the statements that Mike had mentioned as well, that we are busier than we ever have been. Right now, we're pushing, we're closer to 2 calls a day up in Del Rapids than we are to 1 call a day. We're like 1.75 calls a day, something like that is our average right now, which is blowing us out of the water for last year, which was our record year for us. And so we're to the point now where it's really hard to ask a volunteer to cover a shift. For example, Sunday, our day crew ran 7 ambulance calls. Well, there's no volunteer that can do that, right? And that's the entire day. Plus, actually, we had 2 trucks out at one time. So it's difficult to find volunteers. Del Rapids has now really switched to a paid on-call model, where we're pretty much paying our members to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is there because we have a lot of people that come from outside our community to stay and work, and it's hard to ask those people to come up and drive up with gas prices the way they are on their dime and spend their money to donate back, not just time but money. So we're in that mode right now. Outside of that, though, we are membership wise we're sitting good, but it's always we're always 2 or 3 people away from what are we going to do. That's where we're at. So always it seems like. But membership-wise, we're covering our schedule right now. Things are going well. We're preparing for tomorrow. It's ambulances don't do well in snow. So, we're going to be working with our rest of the county partners as well, to county highway department and such, to make sure that we can hopefully get to calls. And it's nice when we can cooperate with everyone and work together. So we appreciate that. Outside of that, I'll let Curtis talk.
Okay. Curtis Nelson, I'm the director of Garrettson Ambulance. Basically echo everything that Ryan said. Our last 3 years have been each our busiest year ever on record. So it's just call volume continues to increase. As Ryan said, it's we're okay with staffing right now, but we're just a person or 2 away from not being okay. We're just Garrettson's the smallest service in the county. We have the smallest call volume, so we're kind of the tip of the spear. And so I think we're kind of seeing it, maybe a little bit more than the other county services, but they're not too far behind us. So we're doing what we can to recruit. We're holding classes. We're trying to get community members. We also rely on people outside the community, so we've also moved to more of a paid on-call system, just out of necessity. And so trying to identify those additional revenue sources, because reimbursements from Medicare don't keep up, billings don't keep up, and so we rely on other sources of funding to be able to do that. And so we're kind of in this slow transition from a volunteer service to a paid service, but we don't have the volunteers to be anymore to be fully volunteer. We don't have the funding to be fully paid, and so we're kind of stuck in the middle, and trying to make that transition. So we're keeping up the best we can. We're like the county fire chiefs, and like Ryan said, we're kind of doing the best we can. We're doing okay for right now, but it's something that we're continuing it into the future is going to continue to, as call volumes increase and volunteerism goes down, it's going to continue to be a larger problem. And so we're trying to stay out in front of it as best we can.
Oops. Morning, Commissioners. TM Even Humboldt Fire and Ambulance Service. Just here to kind of touch base a little bit on what's been going on for things out in the western part of the county. Like I say, Humboldt Ambulance, we've been around for about 55 years now. Our service is made up of medics, advanced EMTs, and volunteer EMTs is what we are still currently running. Call volume for 22 was around 310 calls, I guess we had. Not quite a record-setting year for us. That was the year prior, but as the rest of these guys said, if this year is any indication of what we got coming at us, we will easily surpass that this year. We've been running a lot. Like I said, the other guys already mentioned, it's no secret that our costs continue to rise, that it's including payroll as well. I was at a meeting down here in November. The sheriff's office was in and said it's very tough to find quality employees, and not only if you get them, to retain them. We're in the same boat. If we find a good medic, you got to pay up. So it's kind of the same with everybody. So, yeah, and the money that we do receive from the county, not only, like I said, it's going to help pay for our paid staff for medics, but with that, you're getting for Humboldt, that is, you're getting a volunteer EMT, at least one, if not two, that hops in and goes on every call. Also, depending on what community, including our own, where you're going to, you're getting fire, rescue squads. Most of our calls anymore are all medical. We do go structure fires and stuff for the fire department, but we see a lot of medical calls. So these volunteer fire departments are called out to those as well. So there's the money we receive from you folks, you're getting a lot of bang for the buck, I guess I would say that. And with that, our service provide thousands of volunteer time, hours of volunteer time, between meetings, training, the staffing for the calls and stuff like that. Back when we started receiving money from you folks, it was not intended to be solely the burden of the county, and it is not. We go to townships, municipalities, we have fundraisers, we knock on a lot of doors, we write a lot of grants, we chase after money wherever we can find it. So we're not just knocking on your folks' door to say, hey, help us out. I made the comment before, I guess, and I think it bears repeating, if any one of you got a phone call at 2 a.m. for somebody that you didn't know that says, hey, I need help, would you be willing to get out of bed, get dressed, drive to the scene and say, what do you need? You've got that in fire and EMS in this county. So back them up whenever you can. You supported us very well in the past, and would ask for your continued support when budget times rolls around this year. So with that, if you got any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Commissioner Benega.
Have you seen any rate increases from CMS, Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements?
That might be a Ryan question. They take care of billing.
So
I'm just a fire chief and a ambulance guy.
So, Del Rapids does, we operate a billing company outside of running ambulance calls. Part of that is to offset the cost of us doing our own billing and bring in some revenue for our ambulance service. There's not many ways to make additional revenue. So we do operate a billing company. We bill for Garrettson Ambulance as well, which helps keep some of that money here in our county. And Medicare, we haven't seen any significant increases. The increases have been very small. We'll see what comes out this year. They should be announcing some of the inflation increases here soon. What we are seeing, however, is a lot of the claims being denied due to medical necessity. So we're seeing a lot more stringent looks from Medicare on the ambulance run saying, did this person really need an ambulance? And unfortunately, we can't make that determination right at the scene. It doesn't work well when somebody calls for an ambulance and you go, well, you don't really need one. You can't really say that, right? So you're taking them regardless whether you're going to get reimbursed or not. So we are seeing, like I said, the increases aren't there, and we are seeing more denials for medical necessity.
Mr. Chair, just
Ripley.
one comment. As a new commissioner, these guys showed me the ropes, and I want to give them a thank you. I got to spend some time over in Humboldt, Del Rapids, and Garrettson, and I just want to allay anything about, I love the civic engagement of that it's a lot of volunteers, but don't make the mistake of thinking they're not professional, that they don't take pride in what they do. So there is a lot of volunteerism, but they're also very good and very professional in what they do. And I agree with the sentiment that we're getting quite a return on investment of what we give out and what we get in return, exactly to have that 24/7 coverage and a group from fire and ambulance that are willing to take that call in the middle of the night. So I applaud their operations, and I'm proud to be the liaison. So I hope to see Mike at some future meetings of the Fire Chiefs Association. And also I went to one Fire Chiefs meeting in the past, and I don't think the ambulance guys were there. So that's a relatively new innovation. But I appreciate. I think Mike hit it on the head with that's one of the things I'm learning as a new commissioner, how much collaboration there is in our community, and that's something we can't take for granted. So we have to keep building on that. So I applaud you for including our friends from the ambulance side and making sure we're all working together. So I'll be happy to attend those meetings in the future to represent the county as well. So thanks for everything you do, guys. Great to see you here.
I have a question. I don't know if, is Jason still out in the hallway? And I don't know if this is the right person or who the right person is to ask, but one of the things we've done on a commission level is we've done the Financial Action Network for the second time, and we do a 5-year window. Do you guys have any idea projecting forward what 5 years looks like, maybe call volume, needs for equipment? I mean, what the commission has done in my 6 years on the commission is when we have some leftover money, maybe we should give it to the ambulance and fire department. I guess I'd like to see a more structured look forward. Do we have, how many ambulance services do we have? 5, 6 in the county?
In the county itself, I guess you could probably consider it 5 because
5, okay.
even though patient care out of Sioux Falls does take some of the county property as well.
My point is, do we have the right structure? Are we managing it right? The thought that in 5 or 7 years from now, are we going to have to be looking at full time? I mean, I guess I would like to see a plan that kind of, maybe not a plan, but at least a look forward for the next 5 to 7 years. What, with growth and call volumes and equipment and personnel, what should we be expecting so that we can more effectively help you guys out? So Commissioner Kipley, you're the liaison. If you want to take that on, and try to figure out with Jason what needs to be done. Maybe there's something already that looks forward that far, but it seems like we kind of manage on a year-to-year, crisis-to-crisis basis. What's the next problem? So
We have had a lot of, between Garrettson, Humboldt, and Del Rapids, we've had a lot of informal conversation about what does 5 years look like? What is the need? How do we work together more? And we've thrown out a lot of different scenarios. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things. And I think we're still at the point of we don't necessarily have an answer what that looks like yet, but we are having those conversations of down the road, what does a full-time service look like, or working together, or merging, or this, or what is all of those options are on the table, and so we are having those conversations.
And I'm just suggesting let's have more structure to it so that we can bring it to us and kind of formally sit down over a series of several meetings and kind of take that look forward. And you guys are the experts, and appreciate your time being here today and kind of giving us the 20-minute overlook on emergency management in Minnehaha County. I like what I hear, but I kind of scared by what I hear also. So, concerned, maybe not scared, but concerned looking forward. So,
No pressure on the new commissioner to get
no,
that
none,
done, right?
no.
Yeah, I appreciate your assignments, Commissioner Karski. But in all seriousness, I think what the sentiment I'm hearing from Commissioner Karski is this 20 minutes is great, but we don't want to not hear from you guys until next year for your 20-minute session. We want to work with you each month. Let's make some progress and put some structure around this. So I think some of our budgeting really is looking at some 5-year outlooks now. So I think each service that we're supporting needs to be looking at 5 years down the road as well. And I know you guys are willing and able to do that. So look forward to it.
And I do think that bringing EMS under the Chiefs Association, it forces you to have a meeting every month. So before, it'd be too easy just to let that slide. So this would be a step in the right direction to get some of that conversation started.
Jason, did you have a comment on any of that?
I was in a pipeline discussion out in the hallway. They called me back in. Do you have something more for me?
No, just that part of the conversation. I don't know what things look like, and maybe there is a plan that's kind of formal, or maybe it's more unwritten and understood, but, just so that I guess I would be reassured by knowing that, we're taking a structured approach to looking forward at what the needs are. And, do we need 5? Should we have 7? Should we have 3? Where should things be? And, you step on toes sometimes when you do that, but so be it. So. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, thanks for your time.
All right, moving on to authorize chair to sign an agreement between Minnehaha County and Houston Engineering, Inc. for MC 2305 structure 50278-130, design for replacement. Mr. Groen, how are you?
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. I just want to add on a little bit to the discussions with the ambulances and the blizzard potentially coming up the next few days. We worked really well on the storm right after the first of the year with both emergency management, Sheriff's Department, ambulance services. When it got really bad and we had to pull trucks off, we worked together and parked sheriff's vehicles with plow trucks in the various municipal areas around the county. And then if an ambulance called in, needed help, we all responded together. And I do not believe there was a single missed ambulance call from that storm because we were able to coordinate. Mainly Hank Trumbull in our office handles a lot of that coordination, but it worked really well, and I anticipate the same process taking place on Wednesday and Thursday this week.
Thank you.
First one we have is a bridge project just north of Corson. That was in our budget for this year. We did a solicitation. This year we solicited consulting services from firms we haven't dealt with traditionally in the past. This one we're recommending award to Houston Engineering out of North Dakota to do a type, size, and location study, a final design and bidding for this structure.
All righty. Questions for Steve? Motions? Public comment. Anybody here from the public comment on this? All right, look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on with Highway, authorized chair to sign an agreement between Minnehaha County and JEO Consulting Group, Inc. for MC 2304, structure 50, 154, 180, design for replacement.
Another project that was in our budget for design in '23. This has a construction year of 2026. It's the extension of Benson Road. The unique one with this, it's only a half a mile from the city limits of Sioux Falls. So I have started conversations with the city to see if they want to work with us, being odds are this will be their road probably within 10 to 20 years. JEO is based out of Lincoln with the Sioux City office. We have not done work with them in the past, but they have done work with the South Dakota DOT. We're recommending approval of this consulting agreement.
All righty, questions for Steve? Public comment? Look for a motion.
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion by Benega, second by Kipley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And authorized chair to sign agreement between Minnehaha County and SRF Inc. for MC 2307 Bridge Improvement Program application. Mr. Groh.
This is a different solicitation. SRF Consultants out of the Twin Cities. This is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed by Congress last year. They have a bridge improvement program where agencies can, this is called a small grant program where it'd be a $2.5 million minimum grant, but we're able to bundle structures into one application. We're requesting your approval to enter an agreement with SRF Consulting to write a federal grant for under this program to replace 4 structures, 1 in Valley Springs and 3 on County Road 104 heading east out of Del Rapids. All 4 of these structures were in our 5-year plan for design, and 3 of them were in our 5-year plan for construction.
Questions? So we're basically paying somebody to write a grant for us, is that correct? Okay.
Yes, TS&L work, they're also going to have civil design out of Brookings as their subcontractor, and that is the county's bridge engineer. Most of the work being done under this grant request is work that would need to be done anyways for the bridge replacements in the future.
Okay. Public comment? Look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Help me out, Kim. Are we on 15 or 14? 15, thank you. I didn't know if I checked one off too soon. Authorized chair to sign agreement between Minnehaha County and IMEG Corp. for MC 2306, structure 50, 180, 134, design for replacement.
Once again, this is a bridge that was in our 2023 design. budget. This is on County Highway 133, just east of Crooks. We're recommending approval to enter into a TSNL and final design contract with IMED Group, formerly Clark Engineering. There is a potential that this will be a bridge improvement grant submittal a year from now. We believe it will score well, and this contract will get us ready to make that submittal to the South Dakota DOT if we decide to pursue that next year.
Questions from the commission? Commissioner Benega.
Steve, can you remind me when the state approves these contracts and when they give us those final numbers?
Last we heard, it was supposed to be in front of the Transportation Committee end of March.
Okay,
So we should hear by the 1st of April.
thank you.
Yep.
Public comment? Motion by the commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kipley, second by Benega. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Steve. Consider a motion to authorize the auditor to sign cashback rewards card addendum. Mr. Kite, good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Ben Kite, Auditor's Office. So yeah, my first item up for you for consideration today is for allow the Auditor's Office to sign a cashback rewards addendum. Currently, Minnehaha County participates in a commercial purchase card agreement, allows its employees to use card or a purchase card for paying for miscellaneous expenses, travel expenses. U.S. Bank has entered into agreement with the state of South Dakota and other states across the country to offer a cashback rewards program, basically allowing, very much like you might have on a personal card where you, for every dollar you spend, you get some dollar back. So all the counties in South Dakota are eligible to participate in this. If we were to participate in it, it would not cause us to reissue any cards. Our account number would stay the same. Basically, we would earn about a 1.35% rebate on each dollar spent, generate about $8,000 a year based upon our normal monthly spend, about $50,000. So basically some passive income for the county for really not much effort. So just looking for a
Questions from
motion
the
to approve
commission?
that.
This is a state program that we're piggybacking on, is that?
Yes,
the right
right. So they've
understanding?
got a master agreement with U.S. Bank. We just participate in that
So
program.
the state attorney general's approved it and all that?
Yes.
All been
Yep.
vetted legally and, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Public comment. Look for a motion from the commission.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Benega, second by Kipley. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Consider a motion to approve updated open records policy. So we're going to have two things here. One's on fees and the one's on policy. This one's on policy.
That is
Okay.
correct.
Thank you, Ben.
So, yes, so the Auditor's Office been reviewing policies, reviewed our open records policy, thought it needed some updates. We worked with the state's attorney's office to kind of just refresh the language. State statute still dictates what an open record is and what we have to comply with. The policy really just provides some language that helps the department heads understand what an open record is, provides some guidance on determining if that's a informal or formal request, and gives them examples. So it just needed some updating, not much change to it, but again, state statute still dictates what an open record is and what we must comply with. So I look for your approval for that updated open records policy.
Okay. Questions from the auditor? For the auditor? Public comment? Please.
Good morning, Commission. Cindy Meyer, Minnehaha County. I would just like to ask that you defer this decision until the new auditor is in place. I think that it would be only right that she would have some decision and input as far as this is concerned. So I would ask that you please just defer it for a couple of weeks. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. And Cindy, did you sign in? No. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other public comment? Commissioners, I'll leave this up to you. Remember, there are 2 items here, and I had heard personally from the incoming auditor. She asked for some extra time to talk about the fees. I don't think her concern was as much on the policy as it was on the fee structure. So they are 2 separate, non-related items, but just kind of what communication I had received. So other comments, questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I did hear from the incoming auditor, and she didn't have any objections to the policy change. So I would urge my colleagues to approve the policy as recommended, and then we can have a separate discussion on the fee schedule. But I would move approval of the policy changes as recommended by the auditor.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I'm sorry.
Please.
I would just say that this is driven by legislative changes and policies and procedures, so this is something that we literally are approving someone else's decision.
The states. Yep. Okay. Other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Ben, talk about the fees.
Yes, so we're asking for approval of a resolution to increase the fee to complete an open records request. So as you know, we receive requests over time, and we haven't looked at the chart or what the fee is for processing open records for some time, recognizing that the salaries for staff has increased considerably since probably the last decade that this has been looked at. Currently, the hourly rate to complete an open records request is $5, and that's for those requests taking longer than an hour. So the first hour is free, and then the subsequent hours would be $15 an hour. We reviewed the cost of not only our salary but all the resources needed. The auditor's office came up with a $50 an hour charge that would reasonably cover the majority of the cost incurred by Minnehaha County. Not all the cost, but majority of the cost. So that would again be $50 for the anything that takes more than an hour. And then we also, part of that fee charge, we would request that if that fee were to exceed $100, so basically we're going to be working three hours or longer, we would have the ability to ask for payment of half of that estimated fee before we begin work on that. So there's other costs that are assessed for these types of requests that are set administrative rule, which in the briefing memo that really don't have any impact on. Again, I guess, just my general comment that just trying to be a student of economics, I understand that economics can provide some education and better information for people. I think that, $15 an hour right now really is telling the public that, that our time isn't that valuable, and that, we don't have anything really else to do. I think the $50 an hour gives the public better information for us when we're asking them to pay that. I mean, it kind of lets them know, makes them ask a question, is this something that's important for me to ask my tax dollars to be spent on, right? So that's how I would kind of look at this as well.
Okay. Questions for the auditor? Commissioner Benega.
Ben, do you have an idea on how much revenue you generate with those fees?
I can't say exactly, but I would think it's like less than $1,000 a year. It's pretty minimal.
Mr. Chair, I guess another version of that question was just, I guess I can basically do the math on dividing it by 15 per hour, but just getting a sense of the quantity or frequency of these types of requests that you get right now.
Yeah, so we get about, 4 or 5 open records requests a month. But remember, we don't charge anything for the ones that take less than an hour, right? So that's probably majority of our volume is those that charge are less than an hour. So, yeah. But a lot of these requests come from information looking for equalization is probably a big one. People looking for the list of home sales that they can use. These come from, you know, a Zillow or somebody like that looking for that type of information.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? I'll take public comment.
Again, Cindy Meyer, same comment. I would ask that you would defer for the placement of the new auditor before you make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. All righty. Commission discussion.
Mr. Chair, did get reached out from the incoming auditor, Leah Anderson, and she had some concerns that I think are completely legitimate in the sense of just wanting to get in and see if she can look at different efficiencies and just better understand what all goes into these fees before we would set them. I think that's reasonable to give this some time. I don't think there's any urgency with making this change. I think if it was just a change that was a matter of course, you know, just an inflationary adjustment that we would do every year, I would just go ahead and move forward with it. But it is a fairly large increase. I appreciate Auditor Kite's rationale, and I trust his judgment that there is a lot of work that goes into some of these requests, and it would justify and fit the definition of a reasonable fee. But I think we can give this some time and have it as a good first project to collaborate with our new auditor on of what's the right fee to set here and get that done in due course. But I'd welcome any other comments from my colleagues.
I have a question, just to Gerald's point on the previous item. This one is not dictated by legislature at all, correct? This is our internal decision?
Don't know if that is more of a legal question, if there's if what's reasonable as far as costs for FOIA requests. I don't know if our counsel is prepared to answer that. Don't mean to put you on the spot, Eric, but.
Eric Bogue, State's Attorney's Office. The statute just simply says if the fees are set unless the local entity sets the fees otherwise. So that was, as Auditor Kite had explained, it is very similar to an update, albeit a long overdue update. It is essentially that, just a rationale to examine the fees and the types of requests that have come in, examine the cost to the county to comply with those or satisfy those requests, and then set a fee appropriately. I think using the word revenue per the previous question is maybe a bit misleading because the county's still doing this at a loss. It's not, we're not making money on these requests even if the fee is set to this new amount, so.
The cash is still being paid out to the leaseor every month like it has been in the past. This is just the accounting entry that we're doing.
Okay. Questions for Susan? Public comment? All right, look for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the supplement from Emergency Management Fund.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, authorize renaming the Policy and Procedures Manual to Department Head Policy and Procedures Manual. Boy, this is a big one.
Good morning, Carol Muller, Commission Office. Yeah, this is the smallest detail that you are dealing with today. The Policy Procedure Manual, we don't change one word, one grammar, anything in there without bringing to all of you. And at least twice a year, our HR director, the past 8 years, has said to me, should it be called this? And we kind of just let it go and we bring it up another 6 months. So finally decided, let's get that changed to the Minnehaha County Department Head Policies and Procedure Manual. Nothing else changes. The content will still come before you. The same types of things will still go in there. And most importantly, everybody still has access to it on the intranet. Questions?
Questions for Carol? Public comment? Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Blindberg, second by Kipley. Roll call. Nope. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Consider a motion to approve updates to the employee handbook. Carrie, good morning.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. The next couple of items for you are also a cleanup. This first request is to update 3 changes to the employee handbook, one on direct deposit to make sure that we reflect that direct deposit is required, which it has been. We want to update extended sick leave to clarify the time frame for requesting extended sick leave. And on 13.5 on weather emergencies, we want to clarify that people have to be either working or on paid leave before and after a closure to be eligible for a closure time. Again, all these things have been part of practice. We're just wanting to make sure that they're clarified in the handbook.
Questions for Carrie? Public comment? Commission action?
I'd move to approve.
Second?
Motion by Kipley, second by Blindberg. Roll call vote.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to approve new cell phone policies. These aren't new cell phones, it's just new policies, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind for future memos. We're asking for 2 additions on cell phones to be included in county policies. The first is for the handbook. This is guidelines and responsibilities for people who either have access to a county-owned phone or who choose to use their personal phone for county business. I don't think there's anything too surprising in here. It includes the responsibilities for when you should be accessing them. For example, we would not want our overtime eligible employees doing work outside of hours unless they're reporting it. The second portion of this is to add language to the policies and procedures manual on who can get a cell phone. So the first part is for employee responsibilities. The second part for the policies and procedures manual really outlines the process we've been using for determining which staff are eligible to receive a county-owned phone, whether that's to be rotated within the department or to be issued to a specific employee.
Questions for Carrie? See, you had help from legal, HR, auditor, county staff, so a lot of input into this.
There has been, and I confess this has been probably a 2-year project that we've been working on. So glad to finally be bringing it forward to you and appreciate all the help from the many people, as you said, who've been involved in reviewing this.
This wasn't a 20-minute meeting. We got to change these things. So.
It was a 20-minute meeting, 30 of them probably.
All righty. Public comment. Commission action.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Kipley and Blindberg. Roll call vote.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Authorize Minnehaha County participation and authorize chair to sign the 2023 National Opioid Settlement Participation Agreements with Allergan, and Teva, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. Carol.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. Over the years, about as longer than what we've been talking about cell phone policy, but probably not as long as we were talking about the title of the name of the department head manual, we have had conversations and inquiries about participating in the opioid settlements that exist. We've been very fortunate in South Dakota that we're able to that the AG's office, the Attorney General's office, has taken some lead on it. You had one before you, which was in October 4th. That was before you. That was an agreement for a certain number of companies that came forward. This is a different agreement that's coming forward. The one thing you always go to right away is what's the dollar amount? The dollar amount is not specified in there. This is an agreement that we will participate in that, and once all the participants have been pulled together, then people will be notified as to what the dollar amount is that we would go through and receive. And yes, the companies are listed as Chairman Karski read through. Questions that I can answer for you?
I have one. I mean, we're participating. I know on the other, I don't know if it was the same type of agreement. Some counties opted not to participate. Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to participate? I can't think of any either, so, okay. Yeah. All righty. Public comment. Commission action.
Benninga?
Second.
Motion by Benega, second by Kipley. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, authorize the chair to sign the 2023 coroner and medical examiner contract. Tyler.
Good morning, Commission. Tyler Klatt, Commission Office. This is something you approve every year. The agreement with our coroner and medical examiner, the dollar amounts are listed there for you, $72,000 for coroner services and then $261,331 for medical examiner services. And again, this is for your consideration and approval. Or approval.
Questions for Tyler? Should have asked this question earlier, Tyler. The 72,000, is that what we paid last year? Did we increase it?
It's the same
So
as
we
last
didn't
year.
increase our,
The medical examiner fees went up a little bit, but the coroner service was flat from last year.
okay. Public comment. Commission action.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion by Kipley, second by Blyenberg. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, legislative update, Tyler.
All right. This update is through February 16th. There's been 450 House and Senate bills. If you add in all the fun commemorations and concurrent resolutions, all the et cetera, you get about up to 500 bills in this session. We've been tracking 61 closely. 30 of those have reached their final resolution, whether they were withdrawn, sent to the 41st day, or signed by the governor. One that I would point out that we're still watching is House Bill 1043. Originally, that was intended to take $100,000 off of the school district levy. That's been a hog-housed. I don't know if that amendment has been accepted yet, but that's the pending amendment where it would essentially give every valued house every owner-occupied home a $300 tax credit, and that money would be reimbursed through the state of South Dakota to the counties. So that's just one item watching right now. A new thing that we've added to this report is just to look at how the proposed legislation could impact the county financially. So these are the most notable bills that would have some sort of a financial impact on county services. And I'd point out two things kind of generally. The proposed legislation would increase our costs by a cumulative total of about 600%. There are some bills noted there that indicate they are revenue. That is true, but not entirely true, as it still does not cover our entire costs. For example, the DOC bed rate with Senate Bill 51 still leaves us about 11% short that we make up that remainder. The other ones are either not guaranteed revenue, or, and this includes all of them, they don't account for what our staff costs are and the time and maybe lost cost opportunities where they could be doing other things. So this is just some general information for you and for the public as well to kind of see how county finances are impacted when the state passes those services along to us to carry out.
If I may, Tyler, where are each one of these bills? Have they passed? Are they still pending legislation? What's going on?
None of these have passed yet. I know for certain the mailing of license plates is on the Senate floor right now, today.
Okay.
The rest, I believe, are either in or just out of appropriations.
Okay. And I don't know how many have seen this, but right now, South Dakota juror reimbursement, or whatever you want to call it, is tied for first place with about 5 other states in the nation, I believe. And if this increase were to pass, we would be as much as 50% higher than a lot of the closest states. So we underpay our teachers, but we overpay our jurors, I guess. And just to point out the DOC bed rate, it's an increase in revenue, but we're still subsidizing the DOC with Minnehaha County taxpayer money. When a parole violator is arrested and put in our jail, it actually costs us money to house them for the state. My comments. Any other comments, questions for Tyler? All righty. No action here, but keep us updated on where these things are moving. I get other updates too, but.
Mr. Chair, one question I thought of I have this calendar somewhere, but is crossover day this week?
Crossover day is tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, so then we'll have a pretty good sense of what's remaining, because that by default essentially kills any legislation that hasn't got out of one chamber over to the other chamber.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have now the opportunity for public comment. Is anybody would like to address the commission directly? This would be your opportunity. Please, sir, just if you haven't signed in, if you would, so we can have record of everybody we get to talk to. Thank you. Approach the mic and identify yourself. You have 5 minutes.
Sorry? Speaking to me? Okay, so I have an issue, and I want to ask County Commission, in all due respect here, is an incident happened to me here recently. It kind of upsets me a little bit, okay? I want to know in your policies.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Doug Anderson.
Douglas Anderson?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to know who, well, first of all, where is it in your policy, ordinance, or even state law that suspended the Constitution or suspended the Fourth Amendment right? And I'll tell you where I'm going with this, okay? I went down to do a lawful activity of paying my taxes and doing a title transfer down there at the county treasurer's office. They asked me for an ID. I said, I don't have to show an ID because there's no crime committed. No articulable or reasonable probable cause that there was a crime committed. I know the reason behind why you want the ID. I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you because there isn't enough time in the day. Well, the gal shuffled the papers back to me and said, well, I can't do nothing for you. Well, that bank told me to go down and pay the taxes on it so the title could be transferred, okay? I said, well, get me the county treasurer. Well, she came out of her office, beating her chest, stomping on the floor, pounding on the counter, and demanded to see my ID. Okay? Again, under articulable or reasonable suspicion, do you have that I committed any kind of a crime? There was no crime committed. There was no warrant. No warrant for my arrest, no nothing. So who put into policy, under the ordinance, the policy that gives her the right to suspend the Fourth Amendment right? I will request it in the FOIA of where that came from. I've secured numerous citations of constitutional rights. And before I even get any further, is this. I end up having to give my passport up and my social security number up because she would not do nothing. Deputy Auditor, you know very well, I secured her oath of office. And I fully intend to hold her accountable because there is nothing in the law in South Dakota that says I have to give up my ID for anything. So, I know, again, I don't know why that passport was secured, that social security number was secured, and before my time expires, I will let you know that that social security number is attached to an estate and a trust of one I hold. It is registered with the circuit court. I hold that trust. I hold that estate. What she did when she asked for my ID or passport or social security number, she interfered in my trust. That's what she did. She interfered with my contract, my trust estate. Here's the passport that I secured with the Department of State. I'm a state national. I'm not your U.S. citizen by definition. It's been recorded with the Secretary of State right along with other documents because I requested documents. Where, anywhere, do I have a contract with you people? Where? Anywhere. I've asked. There is none. The Social Security Administration put the Social Security Administration did an agreement with the state without the permission of the parent, or basically it was done under misrepresentation fraud. I never volunteered for it. How could I volunteer for it? Because I was only a 2-week-old baby. The parents didn't have to be involved in this. So therefore, that's fraud because, you know, for a contract to exist, there has to be something that where you are fully engaged in, full knowledge of, in order for this contract to exist. I requested this information and not one single person came forward to admit there was a contract. So therefore, I hold the contracts to it. And I also hold evidence that I'm the lawful holder of.
Mr. Anderson, I would ask you to wrap up.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you,
Don't
sir.
mess with my constitutional rights.
All righty. Anybody else here for public comment?
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to liaison reports. Anybody been working outside of the commission meetings? Okay. Commissioner Benninga.
I participated online, virtually, I guess, at a fair board meeting last week. Can't remember. I had a little difficulty getting into the system, but anyway, fair board has a contract with us to run the fair, and frankly, that is coming up, I think, in April. Middle of April, so that will need to be renegotiated. So there'll be plenty of input about how that participation is handled. There's also 2 meetings set up with the Fair Board Association, I guess, and volunteers that are the people who have been part of the conversation about the future of Fair Board operations and locations and all that kind of stuff. There's one this Friday, I think, at 11:30 to 1, and then again on Monday from 11:30 to 1. The last meeting that I attended was primarily in reference to former financial statements and outcomes of that fair association. So there'll be a lot of conversations in the next few weeks about not only the history of what's going on, but more importantly, about getting input from the appointed Fair Board Commission. That's all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Bleinberg?
I'm not sure if all of these items fall under liaison reports, but like everybody else, and especially Joe, I know we've been busy trying to get the lay of the land and meet the different people that we've been assigned to. So I've just like to report back that I've had great experiences with every group that I've had the opportunity to meet with. Starting most recently, I think I was with, just last week we got to do a property taxes 101 with the State Department of Revenue, which was very interesting and very informative. But I've also gotten to sit down with the helpline. And I, prior to this, would have to say I had a very sad knowledge of what the helpline actually exists to do. And I just was very impressed. My takeaway from that was they had over 600 nonprofits that they are connected to in a database. So it's a resource for any citizen, not just people with specific needs, everything from elder care, connections, support groups for any variety of needs and situations that people might be going through. So that was super interesting and a great group of people. I also learned a lot about our health care that we provide for our employees in the last couple weeks, and that we take good care of our employees with the health care that we provide. The FAN committee meetings that I know a bunch of you have put a lot of effort into have been super informative. I think my takeaway from there is, first, there's a lot I don't know about how county finances work, but second, I have been very impressed with how it's been impressed upon me how much we do with very limited resources, and how that disparity continues to grow with time. So there's been others. I got to visit with the conservation district and the museums. But all in all, my takeaway is I've just been very impressed with how the people that are involved in our county government seem to be looking out for the best interest of people that live here and work here. It's been a great start.
Amen. No other liaison reports. Look to non-action commission discussion. So, Commissioner Benega.
Well, this will be a non-action because I'm looking at my meeting schedule, and there was supposed to be a city, county, and school board meeting tomorrow morning, but I think that's been canceled.
Yep.
So that's about as non-action as possible.
Yes, weather. We can talk about it, we can't do anything about it. All righty. Anything else? We have no exec session, right?
You have no exec session, but if I could, since I know the public is watching, just point out that we are in our final stages of remodeling in this building. And they'll be doing demolition and abatement, so you will not be able to take the elevator or the stairwell all the way up to 3rd floor. So if you're going to the Office of Public Advocates or the Planning and Zoning, you'll need to come up the south steps, give them a call. They can come down and meet you also. Same thing with Commission. You'll be coming up this side. And the Human Resources has vacated because they have no access to their space into the state's attorneys. So, and our goal is into the state's attorneys on 1st floor that they were using, which they vacated, the swing space for us. So our goal is on Monday, and hopefully the weather doesn't screw things up, that on Monday, elevator and everything's back in shape again.
So we get to use a slide out the window for today to leave then?
Yes. So we apologize for the inconvenience, but I think for those that have been in the building have recognized it was long overdue.
Yep. Thank you, Carol. Yes, hopefully they can work through the weather. All righty. We are done. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I get to sign a few things?